Lies of P offers a rich story filled with historical references, a true gift for any passionate historian. The game introduced players to the incredible city of Krat, which flourished after the discovery of the mysterious mineral known as Krat. But it wasn't just any mineral, it contained traces of the strange Ergo. But what exactly is Ergo? How did a mysterious natural resource manage to transform the foundations of an entire society? In today's video, I'll explore the discovery of Ergo and relate it to the real-world discovery of coal and electricity as key drivers of rapid social and economic development during the early phases of the Industrial Revolution. So, let's begin a new journey through progress and Industrial Revolution. As a historian and literature lover, Lies of P is packed with references. Both the main game and overture are filled with historical references and inspirations drawn from Western literature from the 19th and the 20th centuries. In the city of Krat, a miraculous resource called Ergo is discovered, a substance that contains the very essence of life and memory. The more we analyze Ergo, the more we can relate it to how electricity was used in the 19th century. Just like electricity, Ergo was used long before people fully understood it. And, like electricity, it revolutionized Krat, turning it from a poor town into an advanced metropolis. Ergo is, essentially, the essence of a human being, memories, and the time a human being spent on Earth. It's like a soul, except in almost physical form. In Krat, however, Ergo becomes absorbed by a mineral known as Krat. So, when I'm talking about Ergo, I'm referring to this fusion, the soul trapped in a mineable substance. The more intense the essence, the larger the mineral that forms around it. Players can even see this in-game. Note the different sizes of Ergo stones we use to power up our Pinocchio. In the relic of Trismegistus, Ergo is found in fossil-like deposits, not formed by decomposed organic matter over millennia, like coal, but instead by the souls of thousands of humans, in a process that also took thousands of years. Sophia explains that Ergo is created from human bodies affected by the petrification disease, which makes sense, since the disease emerges after prolonged exposure to the mineral.
Petrification disease, puppet frenzy, and carcass monsters don't happen by chance. They're all related to Ergo. Ergo is the essence of life, made from the petrification disease. It contains the memories and distilled lifespan of the victim. That's why puppets sometimes awaken their old selves, or describe someone else's memories.
In that sense, Ergo behaves almost like radioactive material. In the beginning, discussions about Ergo were more theological and mythical. In the document First Discovery Camille, we learned that Ergo was seen as just a travel expense for a holy journey of the Order. It was God's gift, but they didn't know what it was truth itself. Overture dives even deeper into the religious appeal surrounding those who studied Ergo, especially members of the Truth, who advocated for its use beyond mere technological application. Initially, the use of Ergo was tied to the listeners, individuals who could channel the essence of Ergo and hear the voices of the dead trapped within it. Sophia is one of those listeners. In fact, we eventually discovered that the essence of these souls, their memories, can be so intense that it affects the very fabric of time. Sophia, for instance, can control time. 30 years before the events of the game, the alchemists, Krat's scientific elite, discovered that Ergo was an industrial miracle. Through the mining of Krat, they found they could use Ergo to develop all kinds of new technology. In other words, Ergo became both a mineral and an energy source. This is when one of Krat's greatest inventors enters the picture, Giuseppe Geppetto. Through his research, These workshop union scientists developed puppets with ergo-powered hearts, a sort of battery capable of giving life to machines that would take over everyday tasks in the city. Over time, the puppets become responsible for manual labor, domestic work, even entertainment. Krat became a prosperous city, undergoing its own industrial revolution. And this is clearly visible in the game, through posters on the walls promoting puppets' usage, the immense Venini factory churning out thousands of units per day, and through the miners, police, housekeepers, and even toys we encounter throughout the story. But then come Camille, the puppet maiden, the first puppet to exhibit human emotion. In a moment of heroism, she saved a baby from falling out the crib. She was not programmed to do this. After numerous studies, the alchemists watched as Camille begged to be returned to her child. Could this anomaly be replicated? Were puppets capable of feeling pain, love, care, and sorrow? But the alchemists had a hunch. Camille had been designed to take care of Carlo, Geppetto's son. She was meant to take the place of Carlo's mother, also named Camille, who had passed away. What if Geppetto had used the ergo of the deceased Camille in the puppet's creation? What if this allowed puppets to have personality and humanity? Even better, what if the alchemists were able to use this discovery to evolve humanity itself? Again, from first discovery Camille, ergo is not a simple power stone, it embraces life. Through ergo, we can open the doors to eternal life, wake up, evolve, ascend. With this discovery, humankind will achieve immortality. Even if Camille was unique, we encounter other puppets who show care, emotional concern, even love. There's Polendina, who is in love with his lady, Antonia. There's the broken puppet, who learns about emotion from Pinocchio despite being battered and abandoned in the swamp. He even reacts to Pinocchio's lessons on how to express anger, joy, and sorrow.
Hello, my only friend. The mimicry of a joyful heart. It's good to feel alive. Thanks.
There's the scrapped watchman, who explicitly worries about the children of Krat. Romeo, the king of puppets, preserves his memories as a teenager and friends of Carlo. And finally, we have Pinocchio, who takes on Carlo's memories and gradually transforms, becoming more and more human. And so we understand that the ergo, which gives lives to the puppets, is filled with human souls, and those souls, somehow, began to take control of the mechanical body. Anyway, I plan to make another video specifically about puppets and their emotional depth, so I won't discuss this theme today. It's not the focus on the video. Of course, alongside this industrial miracle, a faction within the alchemists began pushing for radical human advancement, not just scientific, but also mental, social, and physical. And that's where danger begins. We witness the downfall of Krat, brought about the unrestrained ambition of Geppetto and the alchemists, more interest in pushing the limits of human evolution through the puppets than in the well-being of the city's inhabitants. But it's not only video games that we see science twisted to serve dangerous ideas of human evolution. In the 19th century, Charles Darwin's theory of evolution was appropriated by pseudoscientists to justify Western dominance over other societies. This ideology became known as social Darwinism. Under this logic, those who wanted to evolve like the Western civilization needed to be conquered and transformed, because they were deemed inferior. In other words, science was distorted to justify colonialism and eugenics. Krat's rise mirrors the explosive growth of the first and second industrial revolutions. What we call the Industrial Revolution was in fact a series of radical changes in the economy, labor relations, and society itself. The epicenter of these revolutions was England, but But over time, other powers, Germany, the United States, and Japan, joined this huge transformation. The first Industrial Revolution, beginning around 1750, centered on coal-powered energy, steam engines that replaced manual labor, specifically in textile production, and the rise of iron construction, cheaper, faster, and more versatile than stone. The Second Industrial Revolution began in the late 19th century, particularly after 1870, bringing with it the rapid expansion of railroads, connecting the world faster than ever, the invention of the telegraph, the development of sewage infrastructure, and, perhaps most importantly, the adoption of electricity. With railroads and the telegraphs, globalization was born, but electricity stole the spotlight. What the Industrial Revolution truly did was completely change humanity's relationship to land and labor. To give you a sense of scale, the idea that more humans would live in cities than in farms and do industrial rather than agricultural work is a very recent shift in human history. Until the 19th century, most of the world lived off the land. In the 19th century, however, 80% of Britain's population lived in cities, with the emergence of urban conglomerates like Greater London and the West Midlands. A historian, Eric Hobsbawm, puts it, "There was no escaping the transformation. It was in technology and its most obvious consequence, the growth of material production and communication, that progress was most evident." Krat was no different. With the new technology unlocked by Ergo, the city flourished. Manual labor was delegated to puppets, and a wave of technological advancement transformed the cityscape. It is easy to see where the game developers drew inspiration. The world of Krat clearly echoes the Belle Epoque of the late 19th century Europe, specifically in the character designs, fashion, architecture, and social structures. If you guys are interested, I could make a separate video comparing Krat's society with Victorian England during the Belle Epoque, highlighting key historical details. An example of this influence is the Great Exhibition held in London in 1851 to showcase the world's greatest industrial innovations. In the game, we see the Great Exhibition with the same purpose. But today, I want to focus specifically on the use of Ergo and how that parallels electricity in the 19th century. Krat's streets shine with electric lights and automated life, just like real-world Victorian cities glowing under arc lamps and buzzing with machinery. Electricity is not just environmental in the game, it's part of the gameplay. Players can even use electricity-based attacks against puppets. Some enemies use electricity as an attack or even to enhance their power, such as Laxaxia the Complete. As mentioned earlier, the people of Krat do not understand how Ergo works, not even the alchemists, its main researchers. This is identical to how 19th century society treated electricity. Early industrial pioneers could generate and harness electricity with crude devices like dynamos and Leyden jars, but the scientific explanation of electricity's nature was still elusive. In the 80s, electricity was seen as a mysterious fluid or natural force, poorly understood by scientists. For example, in 1831, Michael Faraday discovered electromagnetic induction. That is, moving a magnet through a coil of wire generates electricity. This principle was used in the creation of dynamos, the forerunners of modern electric generators. A fun fact: the basic system behind dynamos is still used today, even in hydroelectric plants. Anyway, dynamos were used to generate electricity from mechanical motion. Faraday knew this worked, but he couldn't explain why it worked. And he wasn't the only one. Many scientists of the time ran into the same problem. They couldn't understand the true origin of electricity. This mystery led many to treat electricity as something magical, a force granted by nature to push humanity forward. It was only in 1897 that the English scientist J.J. Thomson, along with his team, discovered the electron, the subatomic particle responsible for electric current, finally revealing the true nature of electricity. In the 19th century, electricity was used in motors, telegraphs, and to produce lightning. Moreover, its mysterious nature inspired the creation of what many consider to be the first work of science fiction, Frankenstein. I will talk more about that in the next chapter. In Krat, Ergo served the same purpose. From it came machines, electric train cars, puppets, stargazers, and yet people remain ignorant of its deeper properties. They knew Ergo worked, but not why it worked. This gap between use and understanding bred superstition and risk. Just like real Victorians marvel at lightning and galvanic forces they couldn't fully explain, Krat's citizens treated Ergo with a mix of awe and suspicion. Finally, let's look at Ergo as a physical resource. Ergo, in its mineral form, Krat, was a mineable energy source, just like coal during the Industrial Revolution. Coal had to be extracted from deep within the earth and was limited. Similarly, Ergo can only be mined, and it too is finite. Electricity, by contrast, can be generated from multiple sources, but Ergo is the source, a high-density natural fuel. And just like coal in the 18th and 19th centuries, whoever controlled the energy source controlled society. That's how Krat, once a poor port town, became a powerful city. Of course, this revolution led to unlimited progress, but it came with a terrible cost: the petrification disease and the unchecked ambition of the alchemists that led to the destruction of Krat. We see reflections of 19th century Western history here too. Scientists and writers dream of infinity progress, of a utopia powered by invention. But that dream didn't lead to unity or peace. It led to conflict and destruction. It led to the Great War in 1914. The idea of reanimating the inanimate, of breathing life into what was never meant to live, was a fascination of the 19th century. It sat at the intersection of science and imagination, specifically through the studies of galvanism. In the late 18th century, Luigi Galvani conducted experiments that showed how electrical currents could move muscles. His most famous experiment: sending a jolt of electricity into a dead frog's legs and watching them twitch. His nephew, Giovanni Aldini, took things even further, applying electrical currents to a criminal's corpse, making the limbs twitch in front of a horrified crowd. Naturally, they couldn't actually bring a body back to life, but these experiments left a mark. Galvanism sparkled interest in the medical science, evolving into the field of electrical physiology, which is still used in medicine today. But these real experiments directly influenced literature. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, published in 1818, was heavily inspired by galvanism. In Shelley's time, electricity was a new and barely understood force, and it seemed entirely plausible that a powerful enough current could jolt a corpse back to life. In her novel, Victor Frankenstein channels a mysterious electrical force to animate his monstrous creation, a mix of unbounded science and dark magic. It was a critique of scientific hubris, born directly from the fascination with galvanism. Now let's return to Krat. Geppetto's technological heart, powered by Ergo, plays the same narrative role as Frankenstein's lightning. It brings inanimate matter to life. In Krat, puppets are made of metal, gears, and clockwork. But once an Ergo-powered heart is installed, they live, they move, act, and serve. The difference, of course, is that in Krat, this is not a horror event, at least not in the beginning. Puppet making is encouraged, with Ergo batteries giving life to a whole workforce. Something I want to add. The boss fight with Simon Manus strongly resembles the grotesque transformation of Mr. Hyde, the dark counterpart of Dr. Jekyll. Just like Manus, before turning into a twisted, deformed mass seeking godhood, he was still human. A megalomaniac, yes, but still human. Finally, Lies of P features a beautiful steampunk aesthetic, and many players might immediately be reminded of games like BioShock. And that's no coincidence. Lies of P is inspired by the same kind of literature that gave rise to the steampunk movement. Steampunk emerged alongside cyberpunk in the 1980s as a subgenre of science fiction. It imagines futuristic worlds built with the aesthetics of the 19th century, particularly the Victorian era. This includes the use of steam-powered machines, Victorian architecture with steel and glass structures, fashion, weaponry. Everything feels like it belonged to the 19th century, but with a futuristic twist. In steampunk, elements of the past are blended with fantastical high-tech inventions. The genre was heavily influenced by the literature of H.G. Wells, specifically his novel The War of the Worlds, and by Jules Verne, with works like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Paris in the 20th century. Just think of the Nautilus, the powerful, technologically advanced submarine created by Captain Nemo, capable of reaching high speeds thanks to electric energy generated from sodium extracted from the ocean. There's a powerful, obedient, swift, and effortless force that can be bent to any use and which reigns supreme aboard my vessel. It does everything. It lights me. It warms me. It is the soul of my mechanical equipment. This force is electricity. Therefore, electricity is exalted as the soul of the machine, just as Ergo is the soul of Krat's puppets. What is the cost of progress? Krat citizens once enjoy electric lights, automated works, and unimaginable prosperity until the ambition of the alchemists dragged the city into ruin and collapse. In the real world, the Industrial Revolution was essential to accelerating human development. The contributions of science and the dream of boundless progress brought advantages never seen before, longer life expectancy and global connection. But alongside that progress came exploitation, colonial violence, and an ambition that often ignored consequences. Cognito, ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. But the message of Krat isn't just about what humans can achieve through reason. It is about how far they can go in the pursuit of rational progress before their ambition leads to chaos and destruction. If you enjoy this kind of content, where I explore the intersection of video game lore, history, and literature, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Until next time, bye!